Back in the year 2006, on February 21st, Sega decided to do something different with releasing Sonic Riders, a fast-paced racing game that at first seems pretty easy, but is rather complex. The tutorial itself doesn't really help much, but today we're going to be talking about how well it aged, since it's been 14 years and it's its anniversary today. Now, you would be surprised about the amount of content that's in Sonic Riders, but once you get used to it, it's rather impressive. For a game that came out in 2006, it's very intuitive with its modes. Let's go into detail about that. So first up we have Normal Race, and Normal Race houses 3 items that you can choose from. You have Free Race, Time Attack, and World Grand Prix. In Free Race, you just choose a character, choose a stage, and go at it. As long as you know the controls of the game and how it plays, then you're perfectly fine. World Grand Prix is basically the same thing, except you race through 5 tracks, and then when you're done, you get a total score. And similar to Mario Kart, based on your score, you'll get rewarded. Time Attack, however, is what it sounds like. You're typically rushing to get the fastest time you possibly can. This is no easy feat and a different version of the game that we'll talk about later, but of course, as always, this is the racing standard. The next menu item that you have to choose from is Story Mode, and you might be surprised to hear this, but yes, Sonic Riders does have a story mode. It is in, of course, a self-contained world, but it is a part of the Sonic series, and, well, you know how that goes. However, this story mode features 2 sides of the story, the hero story and the Babylon story. And although this game has been out for quite some time, I do think it's better if you experience it yourself and give your own opinion on it. But I do recommend at least trying it once. The next mode you can choose from isn't initially unlocked. You actually can unlock it by completing both sides of the story mode. After unlocking, you can play the mode to obtain various things like gears or characters. The mode houses 2 segments, of which after completing some tasks you can unlock various things like gears or characters. If you plan to complete the game entirely, then you're going to be spending a lot of time here. The next selectable mode you can choose from is Tag Mode. Tag Mode is a minigame in which you and a partner team up against either 2 other players or the AI to work together to finish a race. The next playable mode is Survival Mode. It houses 2 segments, Race Mode and Battle Mode, not to be confused with Free Race, by the way. Race Mode is typically what it sounds like. You're racing to get to the goal, however, you have to hold on to a Chaos Emerald, and if you lose air, then, well, you'll be shocked until another player catches up. Whoever completes the most amount of points, or rather gets the most amount of points first, wins. In Battle Mode, you are pinned against other players or AI, in the hopes of defeating them in battle, picking up items as you go along, and using a certain amount of air to make sure that you can survive. Getting hit reduces your points, and you only have 3 of those, so be careful. It's essentially a last man standing with the added perks of power-ups. And finally, the shop. Using rings, you can purchase gears to be used in normal mode. Now you're probably thinking, that's a lot of content for a game that came out in 2006, right? Well, you're right. Actually, there's a reason why, too, but we'll go into that a little later. For now, let's go into the game mechanics. Sonic Riders is a very interesting game, fundamentally and, well, gameplay-wise, of course. Sonic Riders takes a good usage of speed and turns it into, well, Mach speed, really. Once you get used to the game, it seems to be really easy, but it does have a slight learning curve. The reason for this is that the game doesn't really teach you how to get better, let alone teach you most of the mechanics that are in it. The game does, however, provide a tutorial, which, albeit useless, is rather nice to have, considering it's a game that didn't really have much in the manual. It does, however, teach you the basics of the game, such as how to go forward. That's a joke. That's what we call those. But in all seriousness, it does teach you some good things, such as learning about your air consumption and how to jump in the game. Although that does not really sound like something you would expect to hear, it is something that is a base mechanic that you'll have to get used to. But at the very least, it teaches you the basics of the game and what you need to know. And everything else that you learn, whether it be through struggle or through just genuine fun, you learn from the other modes. Which comes on to the next point of the game, the unlockables. After spending a very long time with this game, you grow to realize that everything you've unlocked seems rather dull when you look at it nowadays. But back then, it would be pretty great to unlock a lot of things here. The unlock method, though, isn't very fun. To unlock most of the characters, you have to complete all the missions, or really, specifically, gold all of the missions, because yes, you do get a ranking. And specifically for 2 other characters, you actually have to play the game for a total of 70 hours. 70 hours. Well, really a total of 50, but it's not any better. These 2 characters are not really mandatory as they don't really hold any substance to the game. They're not characters that are like request characters. They're simply the ones that you race against in the story mode if you were to play it. Aside from character unlocking, gear unlocking and shark unlocking is rather easy. If I remember correctly, what you have to do to unlock stages really is complete the story mode and then do Grand Prix, and you're pretty much set. That's all you need to do, really. For gears, as I mentioned before, you can either buy them or you'll get them from mission mode, so it's not too bad in that category. However, I will say that the game does lack in one aspect of Free Race, and that is the stage choice and the variety. The variety more comes from the stage choice than rather the character selection, as there aren't that many stages when you look at it from a base point. When you unlock 4 extra that you can really play, minus the few that you get from story mode, which are practically already unlocked anyway. So there isn't too much variety with the stages, but at the same time, they have other modes for you to deal with if you want to get more hours in the game, of course. If you can get past that, you're pretty much guaranteed to have fun all the time. And even when you don't get past it, you're guaranteed to have fun either way. Unless that is, you are a fan of harder AI. Sadly, you cannot really get the same experience as playing with a player that you can with an AI, as the AI is rather easy to defeat and doesn't really serve as a challenge unless you are new to the game. Once you have the basic understanding of everything, it's rather easy to get past the AI, actually. Moving forward, I want to speak about the level design, in which the themes are great. However, I do feel that they shine more in the way that they work with the game's mechanics. And I'm not going to do a tutorial of the game's mechanics in this video, however, I will explain that each and every level feels as if they deserve to be in the game. They all follow the game's mechanics to a T, and even give you a sense of comfort knowing when you realize that you've gotten better. They truly show that your struggle was worth the effort, and that getting better at the game was really worth the effort, unlike other games that you might play nowadays. I would like to believe that the major system in play when worrying about the stages are the way they access different routes. Now, in this game there are 2 types of ramps. Lower ramps, which you would want distance, and higher ramps, which you would want height. Taking note of that, you can abuse the trick system and practically find a way to do this perfectly, which is not too hard, but can also be a bit of a challenge for those who are not used to it. On the topic of the trick system, it's actually built in such a very creative way. In this game, you have about 4 directions you can use when you're in the air. Diagonal directions, of course, does not count for this, but if you land a trick successfully, you'll get a speed boost. However, if you do not, you will have no speed whatsoever. It's rather unfortunate. However, the more tricks you do, the faster you'll go. So, landing an X rank would net you your top speed. And I find the mechanic very interesting and not something you would see in other games, but that's partially because a trick system like this is never really noted in other games. I like to think this is where the aspect of fun comes into play for Sonic Riders, as you find more fun doing tricks and getting faster than really worrying about the track design, which already is a good thing. So essentially, if you have a lot of fun racing on one track, you're more to have fun on a few of them. But there are some problems that you may come across if you don't enjoy them. Despite the other modes, this is truly where the replayability comes from, because you'll be spending a lot of time doing free race, or even World Grand Prix, or if you like getting better times, time attack. Me, personally, would not really like to do time attack, as I prefer the thrill of having AI in the match, even if they aren't very difficult. However, I will say, if you do wish to stick to free race or World Grand Prix, to unlock all the other gears, you will be doing a much of grind. Grinding rings would not be too difficult if you knew what you're doing, but as a beginner, it becomes a lot harder. For example, after each race, you can get about 100 rings, and if you do 10 races, you can get 1,000 rings. So, in that theory, if you end up getting 50 rings one race or 20 in another, somehow, then you probably would not have a good time grinding. But this is where the other modes come in handy. With the Grand Prix, you do 1 Grand Prix and get 50 rings. So you're doing 5 races at once, and as long as you maintain the ring count, you don't have to constantly go back to the menus. But this isn't the only mode that gives you rings. Rings that you collect also carry over from other modes like story mode or, let's say, mission mode, which is really handy if you want to buy all those gears. On the topic of mission mode, this is probably where you're going to get the most content out of the game, as mission mode, after unlocking it, offers a ton of different gears, different strategies, different things that you'll learn, and even teaches you about tracks. For example, shortcuts you may not know. However, this is partially a problem because most people will find this rather repetitive. For example, mission mode takes you through several different stages, well, normally all of them, and gives you different tasks to do. In Storm's missions, however, normally the first mission is always a trick mission. Now, you would think this isn't annoying, but eventually after playing through each and every level a set of 3 times over, normally more, because of the other missions, can get rather tiring rather fast, let alone getting a gold rank. However, after completing all the missions and getting gold rank on all of them, you can practically unlock 4 characters, as the game would see it, because after completing all the missions, you unlock the characters Knights, Ulala, and Ai from respective Sega sources, and getting gold ranks on every mission nets you Supersonic, which comes in handy, of course. Regarding the other modes, except for story mode, you probably won't be playing them too often. Well, actually, story mode included, you won't be playing them too often, as once you finish the story mode, you don't really have to go back, unless of course you really want to. But the other modes, such as tag mode or battle mode or survival mode, or whichever the case may be, are not very fun, I would say, but at the same time, they are a bit fun. It's more, they're not very suited for this type of game, I would think. But of course, that's not the game's fault. Or is it the player's fault? It's just the game will not really fit there as mini games, as they're not the same as Free Race. They don't really take advantage of the things that Free Race would do, especially since they change the courses in such a way so that they fit perfectly. There also seems to be another problem that stems from this game a little bit, and that problem is that there is no incentive to continue to play after you've already unlocked most of the characters, the last 2 characters being the exception. Because to unlock those characters, as stated earlier, you'll have to do 20 hours of gameplay, and then 50 hours of gameplay, or rather 30 more to unlock the rest of the characters. And this isn't too much of a bad thing, but there isn't enough content to satiate that. There isn't enough to do that nets you enough time that you would want to continue to play and unlock these characters. Now, before I do disclose whether this game has lived up for a long time, I do want to note that there are some other things in the game that you can find that you may find interesting, but really probably not. There is an extras mode in which you can see all your records of times, all your gears that you've unlocked and purchased, and as well as seeing things like the CGI movies that appear in the game. However, that's about it. There isn't much you can do otherwise. There's an option setting, but really, there's not much to do else otherwise. In conclusion, yes, I completely feel the game has held up. However, there's a lot of things that don't really keep it around the level of enjoyment that you would back then. Nowadays, by game standards, this game would pass, but probably not get played too often, because it's not very intuitive in the department of time. Not everyone wants to spend 50 hours on a game to unlock 2 characters that honestly wouldn't benefit much of anything. Although they do offer a different playstyle. It's not that different from playing an already existing character. I do believe that the modes that are in the game are interesting and that it does bring out some better aspects of what racing games should follow. However, the only mode that's worth noting, aside from mission mode and story mode, would be Free Race and World Grand Prix, as well as Time Attack, still normal mode. The game does a good job of showcasing everything that you would find interesting in the game, however, it does a bad job of employing it. I will say that the sequel to the game, although not very good by standards of gameplay, does do this a little bit better, this game just lacks in that department. So the game does hold up for the time that it's been around, and I mostly say this as a community sense, not as a... Now you might be wondering why this video hasn't ended yet, even though I've stated well the point of the video. That's because around 2017, someone known as the protagonist decided that he wanted to make a tournament edition build of the game. He felt that it had competitive value, and by all means, he was absolutely correct. And from this point today, they actually have a server up that also hosts tournaments that we're going to be having one tomorrow, actually, that also hosts a version of the game that has been updated and balanced to be such a really, well, honestly, a very good game. I will say it fixes a lot of issues that the regular gameplay mechanics of Riders has, but it also makes things much more stable. Now, he didn't do this alone, he did this with the development team, and I'm going to be linking the description below of what changed and such, but mostly a server link, so you guys can check that out. I really recommend joining, and I recommend looking into it if you're interested in the Sonic Riders, as we just recently reached 2.5 thousand users thanks to another video on YouTube that most people have seen because of the Sonic movie algorithm. So, I just wanted to add that in and talk about the texture pack and the mod itself, because this is something that I think would benefit a lot of people who are interested in the game or genuinely want to play the game again, but don't have a good reason to. So firstly, I want to talk about the changes they've made to typical things like you would see in the game in the first place. So, of course, with every tournament build of the game, they normally have customized music, and of course this game is no exception. They also have new artwork for the character select screen, and they also have updated the HUD to be 4K, or even if you just want a custom HUD. They also give you the resources to make your own texture HUD. For example, the one that you're seeing on screen now is one that I've personally made that still is not finished, but mostly has the assets ready to be shared with. So, aside from that, the main thing they have fixed is, and are continuing to fix by the way, are balancing. Like, they're changing characters to better balance, because the game originally was not so balanced in the aspect of competitive. So they're changing things like character stats and gear changes and things like such to make the game a lot better and to make things feel more competitive, as well as driving a metagame that is improving rather quickly actually. There's even people who speedrun the game, and it's really employed that you do. It'll help you with a lot of things, but mostly I just wanted to show some more gameplay that, well, not gameplay, but I wanted to explain just that aspect of the mod and let you guys decide for yourself if you want to join. The setup is actually rather easy for this mod too. You just simply join the server or even go to the YouTube channel that will be in the description and look for either the texture pack or the game, and simply download the game and make sure you have Dolphin, and it's pretty much a plug and play game. The only thing that requires a little bit more work is the texture pack additions, which only takes about 3 steps to do it, in all honesty. It's rather fun to play with all the balance changes, and it gives the game a lot more variety in the aspect of board changes when you get into competitive play. If you wish to play casually, however, it's not shunned upon. Please do as you wish, but I would recommend trying to get used to all of the changes first. I definitely recommend it. And since this is a tournament build, I would also like to note that there are some things that would be taken out because of the illegality it would be for tournaments. For example, there's no AI in free race because that's typically where matches will happen. And as of right now, there also is a pause buffer. Like, you have to hold pause instead of tapping it to go into the range of pausing the game. But of course, these are standard tournament things that you would expect to be changed anyway. If you're not in tournaments, of course, you can always stick around the server for support, as it's also a Sonic server. It's not just a server specifically for the game, but that's the main purpose of it. If you want to stay around and chat about the game, or even just remember what it felt like to be as a kid playing Sonic Riders, that's perfectly fine as well. It's rather active now, and even before the members, and I really recommend joining it, let alone trying out the mod at least. I do also want to note that the gameplay that you've seen in the background of this video has actually been entirely of the tournament edition, as I felt more comfortable playing that game to give you an idea of what it would be, and I wanted to make sure that you can also see an example of what the game would be looking like either way, as they did not change any base mechanics. However, they have changed things to make the game a lot more streamlined and better. If you're interested in other things, like finding out things that make you go a lot faster, let's say with courses and stuff, there's also a resources section on the server that has a ton of things that will get you started with the game, including some skits that you can do if you're not familiar with them. Otherwise, that's almost about it. I just want to say this is more of a personal thank you to the team. I want to say thank you guys for everything you've worked on so far, and that I really appreciate the amount of effort that goes into this project. And I feel like if anyone else does too, they definitely support if they can. Without you guys, I don't think most of our childhoods as people who played the game would be achieved, and it's really nice to see something like this happen. I also want to thank the people who keep things clean and tidy around with like a lot of things. The game itself, like how the game runs, running with like things like that. But I really appreciate the hard work that's been put through with this project, and I'm hoping to see more of it in the future, as well as hoping that we continue to have great times playing the game as a community and seeing the community grow in such a way. Once again, I want to say that the download link will be in the server, as well as some of the videos of the channel that I'm going to link in the description. You'll also be able to find the server download in the description, and if you have anyone who's interested in trying this mod out, or you know a friend who likes Sonic Riders, grab a friend. It actually supports netplay through Dolphin, or even Parsec if you want to try that. But I really recommend playing the game, and I recommend sharing it around to those who don't know about it yet. If you're also interested in seeing some gameplay, later today, depending on when this video comes out, it may have been happened already, but if it did happen already, it's fine. Later today, we'll be doing a stream, the server itself. We'll be doing a stream to celebrate the first anniversary, the 2.5 members joining, things like those. We'll be having a stream that will be going on for 3 days. Today it will be just a casual gameplay stream as far as I'm aware. And tomorrow and Sunday will be a tournament, of where we have at least 64 people in the tournament signed up already. And if you want to watch for that, then be sure to join the server and check in. And I'll even link the Twitch of the stream if it's okay with the person in charge. And of course, from there, we'll always do more tournaments. If you've made it this far in the video, give yourself a round of applause. I'm really happy for you. But I would also want to ask if you share this with people around, just in case you know anyone who's into like Sonic videos or just really anything like that. And if you want to like and subscribe, I don't mind. I'm sorry for my upload schedule if you do subscribe. But if you want more videos like this in the content in the future, then please sure to make a comment about it. Any questions in the comments that I can get to, I'll get to as soon as possible. And I hope you guys have a wonderful day.